For now, let's go over to the top where it says your name and click here and click on settings. This first page is where you're going to set up your eBay account with DSM tool. So just make sure all this information is correct. And down here where it says eBay connection, just click connect, you follow the prompts, sign into eBay, and it's very easy to connect DSM tool with your eBay account. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you ever get locked out of your eBay account or have to reset the password, you might have to come back in here and reconnect DSM tool to your eBay account. Once you're done doing that, just click update. Now you can come up to the next tab, it's called dashboard, and go ahead and click there. On the dashboard tab, you can choose how often and when you get alerts about out of stock or underperforming items. For now, you don't really need this too much. You could play around with this later, but I'll let you do that later. And let's move on to the next tab, which is called the lister. Under lister, you first want to select ebay.com so that all the items that you list are being listed by default to your eBay account. See, there's several options here for other eBay accounts that are like eBay UK, eBay France. But if you're just listing under one, choose this as your default. It'll make things go a little bit quicker. For your item location, you want to write in multiple locations. So what this is that eBay requires you to mark on your listing where your item is coming from. So if you actually hold inventory in your home, and let's say you have a home in California, then you want to enter your California zip code in there. But since we're drop shippers and we ship our items from all over the country, we don't really have one zip code that we ship from. So the smart thing to do is write in here multiple locations. The next two boxes can be a little tricky. So for the first one, it's your break-even percentage. So what this is how much more you have to charge for the item on eBay in order to break even. So you have to take into account eBay fees, PayPal fees, sales tax, and any shipping if it's not free, but most of the sources will be free. So what I do is I put this at 0, and then for the next one, the desired profit percentage, I put in 30. And this covers the break-even percentage. So it encompasses everything. And we'll go over more later how to price your items better, but for now you could just put in 30 and you can play around with it later on. For this one that says block Vero brands, you want to make sure it's green and checked off. Vero brands are certain brands that do not allow people to sell their items on eBay if you're using their images or their item descriptions, which are copyrighted. So those are copyright infringements. You want to avoid those and avoid getting your listings removed by the Vero program by making this box green, because if you try to list one of those Vero products, DSM tool will not let you do it. And then you want to make sure this one is green as well. For your return policy, you want to set up how you want returns to be handled. Either 14 days or 30 days. For new sellers, I suggest you do 14 days until you get a good idea of how easy it is to return items to your source. And then it'll ask you, who should pay for the return shipping, either the buyer or the seller. Now, this is only for items in which the buyer has buyer's remorse. That is, they buy the item and then decide they don't want it or they don't like it. That's buyer's remorse. In that case, you can have the buyer pay for the return shipping. Now, even if you have this marked, even though I do have this marked for my store, most of the time I go to my source, such as Home Depot, tell them I want to return the item, and they send me a free return label, which I then send to the buyer. So even though it's marked, you don't have to have them pay to return it. Now, even if you have this marked, if the item arrives to the buyer as damaged, you'll be responsible to pay for the return shipping costs. But like I said, it's very easy for you because your source is going to pay to return it, not you. So I just leave this one on buyer. And this we can set up later once you get your first sale. These are your business policies. So just click update for that one. And then we'll head over to the next tab, which is the monitor. The monitor is the part of DSM tool that will change the price of your item on eBay if the price of the item changes on your source's website. So for instance, if you have a $10 item on eBay that costs you $8 on Amazon, and then all of a sudden the price on Amazon jumps up to $10, you want the price on eBay to change as well. And DSM tool will do that for you automatically. Now, one thing it wants to know is if the item goes out of stock on your source's website, how do you want DSM tool to handle that? There's two choices. One, you can have DSM tool mark the quantity on eBay as 0, or two, DSM tool will change the price of the item to double the price. So in other words, if the item is originally $50 on eBay, it'll jump up to $100. And the thought is that no buyer is going to buy it for $100 because that's a very high price. I always choose 0 option. And there's a good reason for this. Because if an item goes out of stock, and let's say you weren't able to fulfill an order because it's suddenly out of stock and you had to cancel an order with a buyer, the buyer is going to possibly go to eBay and see that you're still selling it for twice the price if you have this marked. And if that happens, now the buyer thinks that you canceled the order because you had a wrong price on your eBay site. And this has happened to me before, and the customers get very angry, and there's a possibility they'll leave a negative review, which you really want to avoid. So I always leave it at 0. And down here for Amazon settings, I make sure this is green. So what this does is it will only let you list an item if the item is available for Prime shipping. And there's different settings for each source, and you can play around with this as well. Finally, the last thing you want to do is click here on the left where it says templates. These are the free templates that are available for your listing. If you're still using the free store, it's only going to be the first 3 or so. I think it's actually the first 5. And these VIP ones get unlocked when you actually have a paid plan. So what are these? So every time you list an item on your eBay store, you can use one of these templates to make it look nice. So in other words, this one called Big Sale, this is an example what it would look like. And this looks much nicer than just having a block of plain text. Now, in particular, I don't like many of these. I think some of them are a little cheesy, and like I think this Halloween one, you don't want to list an item with this Halloween template because once Halloween's over, you know, they're not gonna be very useful. So what I did is I edited one of my templates. So if you come to one that you think looks okay, like this one we just looked at, and right in the middle is a blue button that says Edit Template when you hover over it, and has a picture of a pencil. So I'm going to click that. And it allows you to make some changes to it. So first you want to rename the template, and I rename mine default. That way I know that this is the one that I go to as a default. Right here where it says title, this is going to default to the name that you have for the listing. So this will automatically be filled in. This where it says image will automatically fill in one of the images from your source. This will automatically fill in the description from your source and the dimensions and some mobile content scripts that will make it look nicer on your phone. Now under shipping, there's a couple things you want to add to your template. So let me show you what I added to my template. I'll come up here, and this is my default one. So let's take a look at that. You'll see it looks substantially the same. But down here, what I did was I added this little bit about electronic products. This is basically saying that the products are only promised that they can be used within the United States, and if you try to use them outside the United States, they might not work. It's very important to have this in your description, because if you sell items to customers who live in other countries and they buy it and plug it in and it doesn't work, you'll be responsible to ship the item back to you, which can be very expensive, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you have this in your description. I have also gone through and changed everything to what I want it to be. In other words, I have that shipping is free. I have that I have a 30-day return policy, which you might want to make yours only 14. And I also made sure that my delivery times were accurate for my source. So I'm going to put exactly what I use at the bottom of all my listings into a PDF or Word document, and I'll include it in the course after this video, so you guys can copy it and use it and tweak it however you want.